Welcome to the Emotional Fingerprint of an Adoptee. I'm Karen Chaston.
And I'm Kim Rankin.
How are we today, Kim?
We're great.
We are, because today we are diving into the third intertwining element of the emotional fingerprint of an adoptee. What is it, Kim?
Well, we've already covered the first two, the emotional
Yes.
umbilical cord and limbic resonance.
And if you haven't watched them, please go back and watch those two previous episodes.
So it's the unmet need for limbic resonance that forms the foundation for the primal wound.
Okay. And what is the primal wound? Like, where did the primal wound initially come from? Like, the concept of it.
Nancy Newton Verrier introduced the concept of the primal wound in her foundational book.
Yeah, called The Primal
Wound.
Yes.
And it's within the wound that the adoptee's first significant fracture takes root. And it shapes their sense of self, their relationships, and their understanding of belonging.
So it really affects their identity and belonging, and it's really the foundation that where they go into instant abandonment, rejection, I'm not good enough, all those things. So to explore this in detail, we are going to go back to a segment from one of our insights in lesson 2 of our 8 essential lessons, where we do talk about the primal wound and how it forms and why acknowledging it is so essential for healing and growth for adoptees and also for every person in an adoptee's life. Because once they understand it, they can validate it and they can help an adoptee to heal and to become the most amazing person that they are. So we will be back shortly after we look at this insight. The primal wound, the first fracture. The primal wound is the emotional and psychological response to the severing of the emotional umbilical cord. It's the ache left behind when the deep bond between a mother and her child is disrupted. For adoptees, it marks their first significant fracture in their emotional world, shaping their sense of identity, safety, and belonging. This wound forms the moment separation occurs, long before the adoptee enters their adoptive environment. It's not about blame or the quality of care they received afterwards, but about the innate human need for connection with the person who brought them into this world. The child's body and subconscious remember and hold on to this bond, and its severance leaves an invisible scar. Pre-verbal and deeply rooted, the primal wound influences emotions and behaviours in ways that are not always obvious. It whispers unspoken questions like, why wasn't I kept? Or, wasn't I enough? These unresolved feelings often lead to unworthiness, fear of rejection, and a deep longing for connection. Acknowledging the primal wound isn't about focusing on pain, but understanding its impact. By recognising it as a turning point in an adoptee's emotional journey, we create space for healing and growth. This awareness helps adoptive parents and caregivers see beyond behaviours to the heart of an adoptee's experience, fostering compassion, resilience, and a deeper connection to the self. Welcome back. So, Kim, when did the primal wound concept first come into our lives?
I'm going to backtrack a little here. We entered Reunion in 2001.
Yeah.
And it was a very long time before I sought any professional assistance.
A long time. It was 20 years. It was in 2021. So it was a long time, 2 decades later.
It was. However, during that time, I was actually researching quietly behind the scenes to try and understand the impacts of adoption on myself. because I'd been feeling when we were meeting up that something was stirring within inside me, and I didn't understand what was happening.
So can I just ask you, were those stirrings negative, positive, neutral? What were the stirrings?
I think for so long I'd wanted and needed my mother. And when you came back into my life, that it was too much. I couldn't understand what was going on inside me, that it was bringing up everything that I'd lost, and I didn't know how to process the feelings that I'd felt my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I started researching behind the scenes, and I came across a blog site with adoptees writing about their experience, which I resonated with.
Is that about 2010, 11,
2010.
something like that? Yeah.
And then my hairdresser was also adopted. And so we would discuss our lived experience with each other.
A lot of similarities?
A lot of similarities in our experience, our emotional experience.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually recommended the Primal Wound, and she actually brought me a copy. And when I finally started reading it, because I was really compartmentalizing everything that was going on, I had a young family, and I felt that I needed to push aside my thoughts and feelings in order to show up for my children and be the best mother I could be. So it was a very hard read, and I could see myself reflected in Nancy Verrier's book, The Primal Wound. Every page I turned, it was the first time I had words for my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember meeting up with you for dinner.
Yeah.
And it was the first time really that I had anything concrete to bring to you, because previously I'd been telling you I was fine, and that I hadn't been affected by my adoption, that I'd had a great life. And I think I was, I didn't want to show you in any way that I had needed or wanted you, because I didn't want to come across as being too needy, because I was scared that you would reject me again.
Which is really sad, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah. Here I was, like, wanting a better relationship with you, and you've said many times you felt like you were living a double life because your family and your adopted family didn't know about me and our meetings, even though, for the first 10, 15 years they were sporadically happening, not, on a regular basis, 6 months apart, sometimes it was even 2 years apart. So when we met and you started telling me about the primal wound.
Yeah, I think I phrased it in telling you about the experience that I had when I was 8 with my night terrors. And previously my adoptive parents had framed these to me that I would wake in the middle of the night and not know where I was, and I wouldn't recognize them. And it wasn't until I read The Primal Wound that I put 2 and 2 together, and because I could actually remember, as they happened over a number of months, that I was waking and yelling, I want my mummy, I want my real mummy, I want to go home. And Nancy Verrier actually states in her book that that when trauma is left unacknowledged, that it can actually show itself in night terrors. And yeah, I think that, at the time when I was 8, my parents framed it that I didn't know where I was, and they didn't recognize the trauma and sent me for a brain scan because they thought I had a brain tumor. So the primal wound actually gave me insight into myself that I had never had before.
Yeah.
And it also gave me the opportunity to tell you that I had actually been affected by my adoption.
Yeah, which was good. It wasn't good that you were affected, it was good that you started sharing those things with me.
Yes, I think so, because, I'm so grateful that I didn't tell you to read the book.
She did tell me to read the book.
I didn't, but you contacted me a couple of days after dinner and you said, yeah.
And
What's
I said,
the name of
what
that book?
Yeah, what's the name of that book again? Because it, even though I did have a phone, I didn't put the name down in the phone like I do now. So when you first told me about it, I was in shock. And it was more a shock, disbelief. Oh no, that didn't happen to you. Oh no. Obviously the mother part of me kicked in going, oh no, I caused you a trauma. I can't believe that. And
whereas I took that because you were saying, oh no, that didn't happen. I took that you didn't believe that I had experienced these night terrors.
I believed it. And, I'm a very spiritual person. And I certainly believe in, just to be clear, when I say spiritual, I don't mean religious. I mean connection to a source beyond our realm is the easiest way to describe it. So I understand all that. I understand our connection. I understand energy between people. I understand all of those things and connection. And of course, we are biologically connected and bonded from the time you were in utero. So I understood all that connection. I can understand your parents' reaction to the night terrors. They weren't educated. They didn't understand. As far as they were concerned, you were a blank slate at 6. So you had no connection to your mother, your biological family. They were ignorant, only through lack of education around the bond between us, which is really sad, because if they were aware of it, they would have nurtured differently.
And I think, the experience surrounding the loss of you was never explored, or I was never given words or allowed to explore that experience. Yeah. And so I internalized everything. And, as an adult, I know that, I can reconcile the fact that you did experience coercion, and that I wasn't actually left or abandoned, but I have experienced that separation as abandonment and rejection.
Yes, from an emotional point of view, I totally understand.
And those wounds I have carried throughout my life, and I know that they've impacted me in every way, through every stage. And every area of your life. Yeah. In every area of your life, in every life stage, which we have broken down into 8 life stages. The primal wound for me, after you asked me to read it, and we're going to stick with that because we think that's more accurate, was a very, very hard book to read. And she talks about the night terrors very, very early on in the book, because you had shared that experience in more detail than any other connection. So it was a very, very hard book for me to read. It took me a long time to read it, over a month, which is unusual. And I found it a book that I wish I had been able to read, obviously, at the time of me being pregnant with you. I wish you had too. Yeah, exactly. It's obviously it was a book that they may not have shared at those times because they didn't want to know about it. But the thing is, it was, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to my book. But the book is actually it's very well written, and she's done it with a lot of care and empathy for everyone involved with adoption. Obviously, it's about adoptees, and I think it's one of the first books around from the adoptee experience, where there's many from an adoptive parent or a biological parent's experience. So it does delve into an adoptee the way that we do through our emotional fingerprint of an adoptee, to understand the experience, the lived experience, to explore it. She is an adoptive parent herself and also a biological parent. And it was through having her second child
biologically having her second daughter, that she realised there's more to it than nurture. The differences between her two daughters has more to do it. So when we look at the Primal route, I'm very grateful because she's very respectful to all parties.
But I think in terms of our relationship, it
Yes,
opened,
perfect.
it definitely did.
It
because
opened a
gave-
conversation.
Not only did it give me words around my experience, but I was able to give you something concrete to share
Yes,
that this
Yes.
is actually
yes, and yes,
what I've experienced.
yes,
And even though I couldn't tell you in as many words
yes,
and still struggle to thoroughly express
Yes.
what I'm actually feeling, it was I'd say an opening for us to explore the
Yeah.
experience together.
and it is a book that I guess helps people to come out of the fog.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I'm right in saying that adoptees are in the fog, but at times so are biological parents and so are adoptive parents.
I think it's through the beliefs that we've
Yes.
been given and the conditioning that we've experienced in terms of the adoption experience. And I think for so long that, you know, people view it as a transactional exchange whereas it's actually a lifelong experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, when the loss hasn't been recognised and there's the disenfranchised grief, and you add to that the beliefs that, you know, babies were blank slates and interchangeable, that it's I've lost my train of thought.
It's not good. It's not good in any way. And you know, from my perspective, reading the book, a couple of phrases really have stayed with me, and one of the first ones was that I made a long-term decision for a short-term problem, which was my inability to look after my child at 16. Come 5 years later, of course I could have looked after you. And it just really struck me as in why wasn't that made aware? Like, why wasn't I made aware of that? Like, yes, at 16 I would have required my parents' help or my boyfriend's parents' help, and certainly we have found out that that was certainly on offer from his parents' point of view. Not that it was made that clear to me at the time.
But, you know, like, I think it's very obviously it was different times, and, you know, a 16-year-old would struggle to raise a child on their own. And, you know, I've been a 16-year-old girl and I've raised a 16-year-old girl, and I feel that without that support, you know, or options of support, I can understand why
the option that was presented to me was, well, that's really the only option.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other phrase that really stuck out was when she, and I'm paraphrasing, this is not exactly what she said, it was about a biological mother, parent, wanting to come up against the well-oiled machine of the adoption industry, that if I thought I could have chosen differently, I'm sadly mistaken.
And
which
you know,
is really sad.
And we've dived in an earlier episode about the forced adoption era, or what's known as the baby scoop era in the US. And you know, I think as our relationships evolved, we've also really, over the years, we started to understand that a lot the well-oiled machine a lot better.
Yeah. The agendas that you don't see. And even now in the world, there's a lot of agendas that are happening that you're certainly not aware of. So the primal wound is our third interconnecting element of the emotional fingerprint of an adoptee. So in our next episode,
Yeah.
we will be delving into the fourth and final
Yeah.
interconnecting element, which is the wounded inner child,
Yeah.
which is a deep subject.
Yeah.
It is, we all have inner childs, whether they're wounded or not.
Yeah.
I like to say that we are always every age that we have ever been, no matter what age we are up until now.
Yeah.
We carry those lived experiences, those moments, those memories with us.
Yeah. And you know, the primal wound is the first is the emotional and psychological response to the severing of the emotional umbilical cord.
And the absence of the limbic presence.
That's right.
And so two things that led into the primal wound,
which
and
then feeds into the wounded inner child.
Because the wounded inner child, I guess, is the person that stores it.
That's right. And a wise woman once told me that we are every age that we've ever been.
I just said that. So we're very wise because both of us know that. And that's what it is, and that's what we will be delving into in our next episode. So I think this is a wrap.
It is. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.